I'm an assistant professor in marketing at Trinity College Dublin, and I've been, I suppose, studying conspiracy theories for the last 3 or 4 years, in part of as part of a collaborative project with some colleagues from Melbourne and from Bath in the UK, and we've been studying conspiracy theories, I guess, since before they were really a kind of a mainstream topic. It was just something that was of interest to myself and my colleagues, because all of us have been in different ways interested in studying different outsider groups within society. So I suppose groups that might be traditionally seen as kind of on the margins of society. So some of my own research in that area would have been around motorcycle enthusiasts and motorcycling groups. And my other colleagues looked at football fans. And the third colleague looked at the kind of surf culture. So these were kind of, I guess, subcultures that are on the margins and maybe oppositional to some kind of mainstream ideas. So that was kind of really what brought me to the study of conspiracy theories. And then in terms of like giving a little bit of background around the project, well, we use an approach to research which is called ethnography. And the best way to maybe kind of get a sense of what that involves is to think about like somebody like Louis Theroux and the type of journalism that he does, where you go into a group and in some ways you kind of act as if you really don't know anything about life within the community, and you try to explore it with a kind of from the inside with an outsider's perspective. So you go and you ask all of the kind of most simple questions and try to understand and try to empathize with the people who are participating within that community. So in order to do that, then over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been going to community events within the kind of what's called the truth seeker community. That's the term for that's generally used by people who believe in alternative beliefs. And so we would go and observe and participate within informal community meetings, at larger conferences. And also we would have gone to some of the kind of bigger events with, what you might call celebrity kind of conspiracy theorists like David Icke and those kind of characters. Trajectory, I guess, that we see around a kind of immersion into the conspiracy community, I guess there's some patterns in it. And one of the things that we've noticed through our research is that people, that they normally encounter conspiracy theories or first engage with them in an online environment. So a lot of times people are maybe at home on social media, and they are shared things to look at by friends or at least acquaintances. So there's a lot of kind of popular conspiracy documentaries that seem to resonate with a lot of people over the last few years, that kind of give these alternative explanations of maybe what's happening within society. So what we see is that is often a first step, I think, where people first encounter alternative beliefs, and so those kind of encounters with documentary and YouTube clips and things like that spark a kind of awakening, where people begin to see the world in a new way, and they start to, I think, kind of make sense of things in very different ways, or at least in ways that differ from the mainstream. And from there, then that kind of opens up, I suppose, an access to online communities of truth seekers. So people, they have an awakening through watching these alternative explanations, and then from there, then they go looking to connect with people who also kind of share these alternative beliefs. And when you go online, then you'll find that there's these kind of very vibrant communities on Facebook mostly, but also on Twitter as well, and then some of the kind of lesser known social media platforms like Discord or Slack or those kind of ones. And so on within these places, then people have a chance to, I guess, connect with like-minded other people, and share their views, and kind of get this like instantaneous feedback and affirmation from other people. So you kind of, you're they're participating within a space that's very active. So in a lot of ways, that's very different from like the idea that we would hear around going down the rabbit hole, where we kind of have this sense that people are maybe completely isolated from anybody else, and very much alone, and kind of cut off from other people. What we're seeing in our research is this is very much a kind of a social phenomenon. So as people become as they connect with more and more people, they kind of become more deeply immersed within conspiracy communities. They're, what they're doing, I guess, in a lot of ways, is kind of connecting the dots between different kind of explanations. And we've kind of traced this from this beginning where people become immersed, they have their awakening, right up to a point where they actually begin to produce their own conspiratorial material. So that's kind of the trajectory that we see it, where people go from entering the community, consuming the stuff, connecting with other people, and then even going as far as beginning to produce their own conspiratorial material. Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing we have to be aware of is that, for example, if we were to take some of the anti-lockdown protests that were taking place in Ireland, let's say over the last few months, and the term that was kind of used by a lot of journalists to describe what was going on there was kind of conspiracy theories. That was conspiracy theorists are meeting, and conspiracy theories are what are causing these protests. But I think there's what happens when we do that is that we overgeneralize the population and the reasons why the population were present on that day. And some of the things that would have happened was that in the way that these events were reported, you would have seen people kind of pick out things like, I'm here protesting because RTE producer or RTE presenters are being injected with I can't remember exactly what they said, but something of young people to make them look younger. And so they're kind of like, obviously they're appealing headlines, but they kind of gloss over the range of reasons why people would have been at those events. So I think we need to be careful about how we kind of define conspiracy theories and what they create. And the situation in America is very different from the situation in the UK, and very different from the situation in Ireland. So that's kind of one thing I think that we need to be careful of. But in terms of like how we maybe deal with family or friends who seem to be kind of starting to talk about conspiracy theories and to share these viewpoints, I think I think we have to be kind of somewhat curious and listen to people and try to understand the backgrounds that are leading them to this type of material. And I think if anybody, I think we at this point we probably all have some experiences of where we've tried to speak to people who maybe have gone down the rabbit hole, and we've had that experience of kind of just coming to a dead end, or we haven't really had a proper conversation. They've said what they've said, they're kind of very deeply entrenched in their position, and we're kind of trying to talk them out of that, and in a lot of ways that kind of gets us nowhere. So I think we have to be able to meet and to have some to be able to hear what they're saying. But also, I guess some of it comes down to being able to talk to people about their sources of their information, and actually kind of like following up on some of the things that they say, and reading some of that stuff, and kind of being able to go back and then critically kind of question the material that they're developing their opinions from. But that's a process. It's not the type of thing that just having one conversation, I don't think is really going to, we're not going to change people's opinions very easily, because I think we've got to kind of ask ourselves questions about why people are being drawn to these type of explanations, what the problems are that they're facing, and also to think about where we could direct them to maybe, more traditional kind of trustworthy sources, I guess, as well, is really important.